The day I earned the title of Lakeside Estates' least favorite resident was also the day I ascended to great influence. It began with a £500 penalty from Karen Wellington and her homeowners association, all because I took my sorrowful daughter fishing. Little did they realize, I had 4 million reasons to retaliate and plenty of resolve to employ each one. If you're viewing this video from your phone, perhaps resting in the bathroom to avoid those tedious HOA meetings, leave a comment below sharing your current hideout. I promise this tale will captivate you entirely. I'm Remy Thornfra, here to narrate my story. Up until 2 months ago, I was living a life many dream of, the quintessential American success. After establishing a 15-year career in venture capital and financial investments, I retired at 42 by cashing out my stakes in various tech startups. Yet, life has its peculiar way of showing that wealth isn't everything. Last year, my wife Rachel succumbed to cancer, leaving me alone to care for our 14-year-old daughter, Solon. Our grief was overwhelming, almost breaking us, but fishing, the last joy we shared as a family, provided some solace. And so, seeking a new beginning, I sought out a home close to water, a sanctuary where we could mend. The Lakeside Estates seemed idyllic, with upscale residences, fine schools, and a picturesque 6-acre lake at its heart. The estate agent mentioned a homeowners association, but assured me it concerned trivial matters: garden upkeep, paint colors, the usual. Her pause before saying, "The HOA president, Karen Wellington, is very dedicated to property value," should have been a warning. I thought little of it then, having handled challenging individuals before. How troublesome could one local official be? I discovered the answer on a serene Saturday morning in April. Solon and I had been fishing at the community lake for an hour, casting lines from the modest wooden dock. It was the first time I had seen my daughter genuinely smile in weeks as she proudly unhooked her second bluegill. That peace was shattered by a piercing interruption. "Excuse me, what exactly do you think you're doing?" Karen Wellington had arrived, a woman in her late 50s, dressed in what appeared to be luxury leisure wear. Her blonde hair was styled in the universal, "I demand to speak to the manager" cut, as she clutched a tablet and wore an expression suggesting she had caught someone defacing public property. "Good morning," I greeted, maintaining a cordial tone. "Just enjoying some fishing with my daughter." I offered my hand. "I'm Remy Thorncraft. We moved into the Sycamore Drive house 2 months ago." She ignored my gesture, tapping emphatically on her tablet. "Mr. Thorncraft, fishing is expressly forbidden in the community lake. This contravenes HOA regulations," she stated, adding with regal air, "I'm Karen Wellington, HOA president. The fine is £500. Solon stood frozen beside me. "There must be a misunderstanding," I replied evenly. The estate agent highlighted fishing as a community benefit, a major reason we chose to move here. Karen's thin smile lacked warmth. "The rule was amended last month. All residents were informed via email. Ignorance doesn't excuse compliance." She displayed her tablet, showing a document titled Amendment to Recreational Use of Community Lake, dated merely 4 weeks prior. "We never received that notification," I contested. "I personally oversee all communications," Karen replied with certainty. "Every household received one. You might want to check your spam folder. It's not my responsibility to ensure residents read official communications." Suppressing frustration, I maintained my composure. "May I inquire why fishing is prohibited abruptly?" Clearly, the lake supports fish life. Bass were evident near its shallow banks. Karen glanced dismissively at our gear. "Environmental and safety concerns. Hooks could harm wildlife, and we've had complaints about fish smells and bait disturbing residents enjoying their lake views from home." She eyed our modest tackle box. "Not everyone favors this activity while sipping their morning coffee on their patios." Her tone provoked a closer inspection of Karen Wellington and the way she surveyed our surroundings. Our humble fishing equipment and her slight sneer made it clear that this issue transcended mere regulations. "We're exceedingly cautious," I assured. "Celine and I always practice catch and release, ensuring we leave no trace." Karen's expression hardened. "Mr. Thorncraft, perhaps you're unaware of the expectations at Lakeside Estates. We uphold specific standards here. This isn't your average fishing spot. Longtime residents value a certain ambience," she noted, her gaze shifting from Celine back to me. Her implication was unmistakable, and anger bubbled within me. Just as I prepared to respond, I heard a quiet sniffle beside me. Celine's eyes glistened with tears. This was meant to be our refuge, a sanctuary where she might briefly escape the void left by her mother's absence. But now this woman's thinly concealed disdain was tarnishing it. "We'll pack up," I said softly, wrapping my arm around Simone's shoulders. "Please email me the fine details and the updated rules." Karen's triumphant smile resurfaced. "Excellent, I'm pleased we understand each other. Please be more vigilant with your emails in the future, Mr. Thorncraft. Let's avoid any further misunderstandings." With that, she turned on her heel, her designer trainers barely rustling the groomed grass as she departed. We gathered our things and Celine wiped her eyes. "Dad, why was that lady so mean? We weren't hurting anything." Her inquiry left me without a suitable answer for her youthful ears. "Some people prefer rules over people, sweetheart," I finally replied. "Let's head home for lunch." That afternoon, after scouring my inbox including the spam and finding no phishing ban notification, I delved deeper into our HOA's workings. My findings were revealing. Karen Wellington had steered the HOA as president for 8 years, while her day job involved managing a boutique real estate firm flaunting upscale community properties. Social media posts featuring Karen hosting lively lakeside events, replete with alcohol and music, suggested certain exemptions from her strict community atmosphere regulations. To my surprise, an overlooked clause in the HOA documents clarified that the lake was a common property feature for all residents, contradicting any absolute control by the HOA. As evening descended, I glanced out to see Karen at a lakeside gazebo, surrounded by friends with wine glasses aloft, laughter echoing. "So they wish to adhere strictly to the rules," I mused. "Very well, first I must ascertain the true ownership of this lake." The next morning, I encountered an elderly gentleman with his dog on our street. Introducing himself as Merrick Henderson, a retired lawyer residing 3 doors down, he darkened upon hearing my tale of Karen Wellington. "Ah, you've met our neighborhood autocrat," he grimaced. "Let me guess, she cited some arcane rule and issued a fine." As I nodded, Merrick shook his head. "Karen runs this place like her personal fiefdom. Most folks just pay off the fines and keep a low profile." He glanced about and murmured, "Interested in some inside info? Come by for coffee, I've got a fair share of HOA horror tales." I accepted his invitation later that afternoon. Merrick's abode was laden with law books and framed photos, presumably of colleagues or clients. Over excellent coffee, he divulged insights into our community's governance. "Here's the little-known fact most residents miss," Merrick revealed, showcasing a folder brimming with documents. "The lake isn't owned by the HOA, it's owned by Meridian Development Corporation, the original community developers. They've leased recreational rights to the HOA for 30 years. That's how Karen and the board dictate usage." He tapped a document highlighted with a critical date. "But that lease expires in under 2 months. This captured my immediate interest. What then? Technically, Meridian could renew the lease, sell the lake to the HOA outright, or find an entirely new buyer. Most residents remain blissfully unaware of this pivotal juncture. There is a prevailing misconception that the Homeowners Association, HOA, owns everything in the community. Merrick leaned in, revealing an intriguing twist. Through his network, he had learned that Meridian was facing financial troubles and might need to offload assets rapidly. Our acquaintance, Karen, was aware of this situation. Over the following hour, Merrick and I delved into public records, uncovering a pattern of manipulative conduct by Karen. It extended beyond mere rule enforcement, involving several shell companies linked to her real estate interests. She had been discreetly purchasing properties in the neighborhood, typically from residents pressured by inflated HOA fines and violations. Now, as Merrick deduced, she was after a more ambitious target. Karen had been in confidential discussions with Meridian to buy the lake area for her own development company, not the HOA. Rumor had it she intended to build luxury homes along part of the shoreline, restricting lake access. This shed light on the recent fishing ban, not due to environmental concerns, but as a prelude to the complete change in ownership. Merrick introduced me to another ally, Samuel Washington, a retired bank owner and one of the few residents to openly oppose Karen. Samuel, a distinguished African-American in his 60s, had experienced Karen's understated discrimination. He invited us to his study, revealing a comprehensive database tracking HOA activities over a decade. What began as a simple record-keeping task evolved into documenting Karen's selective enforcement. The data clearly showed that homeowners of color received violation notices nearly 3 times more than their white counterparts. New residents faced infractions ignored among longer-term residents. Moreover, properties sold below market value due to compliance pressures often ended up owned by shell companies linked to Wellington Properties, Karen's real estate operation. Using a web of LLCs, Lakeside Investments, Wellington Holdings, Sierra Vista Properties. She obscured her ties to acquisitions, buying 6 different homes in 5 years through this tactic. Merrick grimly noted that the lake was her ultimate aim. Meridian Development had been struggling since the recession, burdened by overinvestment in commercial ventures and discreetly offloading residential assets to manage debts. Despite its initial designation as a permanent green space, the lakefront's development constraints had eased, with original plans for condominiums blocked by past environmental laws now possible to revisit. Samuel added that Karen wielded enough influence at City Hall to potentially secure development permits for exclusive homes, an enterprise easily worth $7 to $8 million in revenue. My interest as a former venture capitalist was piqued, prompting me to inquire more about Meridian's financial status. In the following days, Samuel introduced me to former banking associates, providing discreet insights into Meridian's instability. They had overextended during a commercial development flop and were quietly liquidating land to stave off bankruptcy. The lake property, valued at approximately £300,000, was one of their few unencumbered assets. Meanwhile, Merrick had been organizing small gatherings with discontented residents. We convened at various locations, sometimes at Samuel's home, other times at the local library or even a supportive resident's bakery. Consistent stories of Karen's tactics emerged. I was cited for excessive Christmas decorations just after criticizing her at a town council meeting, recounted James Morris, a retired teacher. I've had the same lights for years, yet suddenly they breached a vague brightness rule. Maria Gonzalez, a healthcare worker, shared, "My foster children were banned from the community pool for being too loud when Karen's grandchildren wanted to use it. When I asked about the violation, it was dismissed as her executive decision." As the president of the Homeowners Association, Diana Winters, a recent widow and newcomer to the neighborhood, recounted her unsettling interactions with Karen. Karen had led an inspection team into her backyard under the guise of searching for mosquito breeding grounds, only for Diana to receive violation notices for 5 issues shortly thereafter. Issues that mirrored those of her neighbors, none of whom received similar citations. When Diana challenged the unfairness, Karen insinuated that the community might not be suitable for her current circumstances. Karen's strategy, as unveiled through numerous stories, was clear. Isolate dissenting voices, apply selective pressure using the HOA's authority, and ensure compliance or drive people away. Those who chose to stay learned to maintain a low profile, while challenging Karen led to intensified harassment. In our meetings, we sought to identify allies within the neighborhood. Samuel initiated a secure messaging group where residents could exchange experiences and information safely, effectively forming a covert resistance. I delved into Karen's financial affairs, leveraging my expertise in property records and business filings. Surprisingly, Karen's facade of success was founded on Wellington Properties, which was heavily leveraged. Multiple credit lines had been taken against her properties, likely to sustain her extravagant lifestyle and fund further acquisitions. Should the lake development plan falter, Karen faced grave financial jeopardy. She isn't just pursuing profit, I clarified to Merrick and Samuel during our strategic discussions, she's driven by necessity. These records reveal she's stretched thin. The lake project represents her financial salvation. This insight reshaped our approach. Faced not merely with a domineering community leader but someone scrambling for economic survival, her actions were both perilous and precarious. Following Samuel's suggestion, I reached out to Robert Chin, a real estate broker privy to details regarding the lake property and wider market trends. In a discreet meeting 20 miles from our community, Robert disclosed that Karen had been attempting to secure financing to acquire the lake property at about £240,000. Meridian Development, currently in financial distress, needed a swift closure and had granted her a 60-day exclusive negotiation period. Desperation meant they'd entertain a better offer if it assured immediate payment. Robert further revealed that Karen's real estate empire was largely an illusion. On paper, Wellington Properties appears impressive, he noted, but she's leveraged to the utmost. Her HOA links and social network maintain the illusion of success, yet she's precariously close to financial disaster, just 3 troubled months away. This exposed the intensity behind her push for the lake deal. She required substantial success to appease her creditors. With this key information, I began crafting a strategy. My background as a venture capitalist had honed my ability to identify distressed assets primed for transformation, and the lake property fit this model. I possessed the capital to make an immediate, cash-based bid, exceedingly tempting to Meridian's cash-strapped developers. The The challenge lay in timing our move for maximum impact. We need Karen to fully commit publicly to the lake endeavor, Samuel advised. Let her announce special assessments for enhancements and stake her reputation with the community and creditors. Then we act. Merrick concurred. The more resources she invested before our intervention, the more pronounced the repercussions upon our success, and the more likely the community would rally against her once they realized they'd been misled. As our group expanded and the plan crystallized, maintaining absolute secrecy from the outside world and particularly Karen's informants was paramount. We appeared as dissatisfied residents documenting HOA excesses. Although Karen knew of our gatherings, evidenced by increased random enforcement against our affiliates, she remained oblivious to our true aims. Armed with intelligence from various channels, we prepared to advance in our strategy. Robert covertly arranged a meeting with Tom Branson, the Meridian executive overseeing the lake's sale. As I prepared for what promised to be a pivotal conversation, it was clear we were approaching a decisive moment in our confrontation with Karen Wellington. The stakes were substantial, impacting not just me and Samuel but the entire community. We were about to test the results of our meticulous planning. The meeting with Tom Branson unfolded discreetly in a private room within a bustling city law office, deliberately chosen to evade the scrutiny of the local community. As Robert had hinted, Meridian was indeed impatient to unload assets swiftly. "I'll be candid with you," Tom began after preliminary pleasantries. "Wellington Properties have a 60-day exclusive negotiation period. However, there's a stipulation permitting us to consider other proposals if assured of a quick completion. Karen's still piecing together investors and financing, but truthfully we needed the funds yesterday." "What is Wellington's offer?" I inquired. £300,000 payable over 18 months, structured through complex financing, Tom answered, his frustration tangible. "Our CFO insists we divest non-essential assets immediately to bolster our downtown commercial expansion." I nodded thoughtfully and asserted my position. "I can propose £350,000, all cash, closing within a week." Tom's eyebrows raised in astonishment. "That would indeed capture my board's interest," he acknowledged, taken aback by my forthright proposition. "But beware, Karen Wellington's connections in local government run deep. She won't go down quietly." "I'm counting on it," I replied, grinning. 2 days later, I secured a preliminary agreement, contingent solely on a routine environmental assessment, feasibly completed within days. To maintain discretion, the purchasing entity was registered as Thornycroft Holdings Limited, an entity created expressly for this acquisition. Unless Karen delved into corporate registrations, she wouldn't instantly link it to me. As I formed alliances and explored avenues, word reached Karen about my maneuvers. Abruptly, I began receiving violation notices on matters previously unnoticed: irregular weed management, unsanctioned landscaping materials, mailbox height discrepancies, and even penalties for my garage door's taupe shade, despite the color being sanctioned when I moved in. Fines amassed. £100 here, £200 there. In a fortnight they totaled nearly £2,000. Attempts to contest were mysteriously lost or denied without rationale. Clearly, Karen deployed every available tactic to coerce compliance. Then came a particularly distressing occurrence. Sin left her bicycle on our driveway whilst rushing indoors to answer a call. Within 15 minutes, a violation notice adorned our door, complete with photographic proof of the breach. Someone was monitoring our home, poised to exploit any minor misstep. The systematic harassment became glaringly evident. The targeting wasn't confined to me. Anyone seen affiliating with our group swiftly found themselves subjected to similar treatment. Maria Gonzalez received a citation for her lawn being precisely too high, measured by Karen personally. James Morris was penalized for his bird feeder, residing in his yard for decades, yet now breaching an obscure aesthetic regulation. Diana Winters was issued a notice concerning improper waste disposal because her recycling bin stood 6 inches too close to her garage. It was unmistakably Karen's intimidation campaign. However, her aggressive tactics were backfiring. Rather than deterring individuals from our alliance, her heavy-handed approach drove more residents to our clandestine meetings. With each new ludicrous violation, another neighbor joined our message group. By the 3rd week, we represented almost 30 households, over a quarter of the neighborhood. The final straw fell when my daughter returned home distressed, the victim of school gossip accusing us of being troublemakers. "Brianna said her mum claims we're lowering property values and don't belong here," she sobbed. Investigation revealed Brianna's mother was a prominent supporter of Karen on the HOA board. This battle had extended its reach, targeting my child. That night after Sun slept, I rang Merrick. "I'm contemplating selling the house and relocating," I confessed. "This is impacting Sun excessively." "That's precisely her game," Merrick replied resolutely. "Karen's done this to at least 6 other families, pestering them with violations until they sell, typically below market price, due to property issues, after which her real estate contacts swiftly acquire them. Don't surrender so easily." He was justified, of course. Walking away signified defeat to Karen and inadvertently imparting a faulty lesson to Sun about confronting bullies. Later that evening, I received confirmation that the lake's environmental assessment concluded favorably, and Meridian's board accepted my proposal. The documentation was underway. While preparing to sign the documents that night, I stumbled upon a significant detail in the HOA regulations. The special assessment Karen envisioned for enhancing the lake amenities requires a 75% homeowner approval, contrary to her claim of needing just a simple majority. Her plan to circumvent HOA rules was evident, relying on the assumption that no one would oppose her. As the realization dawned, I thought, they've attacked my daughter, and it's time to show them the capabilities of someone skilled in dismantling and reconstructing systems. The following morning, I withdrew £350,000 from my investments, around 15% more than Karen's offer for the lake. Samuel Washington not only supported my plan but also offered an additional £50,000 loan to guarantee we had sufficient influence. Within 48 hours, I had completed the transaction with Meridian Development, securing ownership of the lake and its 6 acres, including a 10-foot shoreline perimeter, ensuring neither the HOA nor Karen Wellington could claim it. The timing was perfect. The day after I closed the deal, Karen had arranged a special HOA meeting to present her aspirations for the lake's future. She hired an architecture firm to draft renderings that included shrinking the water area by 20% to accommodate a members-only lounge, thereby eliminating prime fishing spots. I kept this information strictly confidential, sharing it only with Merrick and Samuel, while Karen's strategy evolved into an emergency meeting. Her increasing aggressiveness was evident when she demanded a special assessment, a £50 monthly fee per household, allegedly for lake maintenance but in truth to finance her lake acquisition. "Good afternoon, everyone. I trust you're enjoying this fine day by the lake," I began as Karen hurried over, attempting to reclaim the microphone. "This is a private community event, you're not invited," she insisted. I held firm. "Actually, Karen, there's a misunderstanding about who ought to be inviting whom." I nodded to my solicitor, who handed me a document. "As the legal owner of this lake and the surrounding 10 feet of shoreline, I must inform you that you are currently trespassing on private property." The crowd grew silent and Karen's face flushed crimson. "What do you mean? This is the HOA's territory." "No, Karen, it never was. It belonged to Meridian Development until 3 days ago when I acquired it outright." I presented the deed for all to see. "With immediate effect, I'm terminating the recreational use agreement, which was due to expire in 28 days anyway." I gestured towards the police officer. "I've requested Officer Reynolds here to assist with ensuring an orderly departure from my property. You have 15 minutes to collect your belongings and vacate the premises." Karen's expression was a study in disbelief. Feeling as though a cold bucket of water had been thrown over her, she protested, "You can't do this, the community has rights." Unperturbed, I responded, "Actually, I can and I have. Officer Reynolds has a complaint prepared should it become necessary, although I'm confident it won't come to that. After all, Karen, you're renowned for adhering to the rules." As the crowd buzzed with bewilderment, I continued, "Let this be a lesson on the effects of unchecked power. This is what happens when someone exploits their authority for years." The gathering quickly disbanded, leaving Karen under the scrutinizing gaze of departing guests. A few approached me, expressing a blend of astonishment and respect. "It's about time someone challenged her," whispered one resident. In the following week, I took decisive action. No trespassing signs appeared around the lake, patrolled by security personnel day and night. A press conference was organized to disclose my vision of transforming the lake into a fish conservation area and an educational hub for children, addressing ecological neglect. I explained to reporters that testing revealed high levels of phosphates and nitrates from garden chemicals, necessitating a restoration plan by environmental experts. Though initial reactions were mixed, opinions shifted as Karen's intentions surfaced. Upset over restricted access dissipated when residents discovered her plans to build private homes on the community shoreline for personal gain. Karen, furious, attempted legal action against me for supposed devaluation of community assets. Yet, her case was swiftly dismissed when my lawyer presented clear property deeds and invalid agreements. She sought retribution through the homeowners association, pushing for penalties and even attempting a lien on my property, but people started questioning whose interests she truly represented. The turning of the tide was marked by Safra Duskan's brave revelation at an HOA meeting. "I've served on this board for 3 years," she stated, initially hesitant but growing in confidence. "I've seen Karen manipulate rules, target homeowners, and allocate funds to favored projects." Safra's courage inspired others. Many voiced grievances long suppressed. This propelled a motion to audit HOA finances over the past 5 years, revealing alarming irregularities and prompting members to reconsider Karen's leadership. Attention shifted away from me and towards the flaws in HOA governance. As change stirred within the community, I launched a special initiative: free fishing passes for all children, excluding those whose parents were on the board until resignations occurred. Though arguably petty, the strategy proved effective. Soon, former supporters began seeking fishing opportunities for their children. Even Veronica Palmer, a vocal ally of Karen, appeared on my doorstep, seeking a pass for her son. Her discomfort was evident, yet she stressed her son's interest in fishing. "Your daughter mentioned a junior conservation program," she admitted. I confirmed her inquiry, emphasizing the focus on ecological education and conservation, but reiterated the program's exclusivity to non-HOA board families. Veronica's expression revealed her contemplation, hinting at reconsidering her board position amidst evolving social dynamics. After some thought, I responded neutrally, expressing interest in receiving updates if circumstances changed. The program was set to commence the following Saturday. Within a few days, Veronica publicly stepped down from the HOA board, citing personal reasons, quickly followed by another 2 board members within the week. In response, Heron resorted to spreading false rumors about the lake being polluted and hazardous. I quashed these claims by publishing professional water quality test results, which indicated the lake was actually cleaner than during previous HOA management. Desperately, Heron attempted to bribe Merrick Henderson by offering to erase his past HOA violations and promised him a position on a reimagined board once the lake issue was resolved. Unbeknownst to her, Merrick recorded their entire conversation. "I can make all those violation notices disappear," Karen's voice was clearly captured on the tape, "and there would be a place for you on the new board with a stipend, of course. Just help persuade Thorncraft to sell the lake to the HO. Mention environmental liabilities or insurance costs. Frighten him a little." Merrick, amused, played the recording for me, remarking, "Karen seems to have forgotten the first rule of villainy: never attempt to corrupt a retired ethics attorney." Karen's final act unfolded late one night when my security cameras caught her and 2 other HOA board members trespassing on my property, seemingly trying to collect water samples or, more likely, aiming to contaminate the water to support her pollution claims. The video clearly captured Karen emptying a small bottle into the lake where children often fished. I immediately forwarded the footage to the police, leading to her arrest for criminal trespassing and attempted environmental contamination. During processing, investigators began scrutinizing HOA finances during her term, uncovering misappropriation of funds, selective enforcement of rules based on personal relationships, and evidence of her manipulating property values for her real estate gains. 2 weeks later, I convened a meeting at my home with community residents, excluding the current HOA leadership, to discuss the lake's future. The turnout was remarkable, with almost every household represented. I presented my plan: transfer ownership of the lake to a new community trust under 3 conditions. First, the HOA leadership must be entirely restructured with term limits and transparent voting procedures. Second, all HOA regulations would undergo a review and amendment to ensure fairness. Third, an independent ethics committee with rotating community membership would be appointed to oversee HOA decisions. In a surprising revelation, I shared that over the past month, I had been quietly purchasing mortgage notes on several properties from Lakeside National Bank, including Karen Wellington's home. The room buzzed with shock. Using my financial connections and Samuel's banking network, I obtained debt obligations on nearly 20% of the community's homes, focusing on properties owned by Karen and her close associates. While unconventional, this move was entirely legal and provided significant influence. I reassured the worried faces that I had no plans to foreclose or call in these debts. Instead, I was offering refinancing at below-market rates to all homeowners, but first, the community's broken system needed repair. The vote to overhaul the HOA leadership was almost unanimous, with Karen Wellington ousted in disgrace, grappling with criminal charges and civil lawsuits from homeowners wronged by her tactics. Her real estate firm faced scrutiny for unethical practices, and she eventually listed her house for sale, finding no buyers due to her tarnished reputation. Safra Duskin emerged as the new HOA president, pledging comprehensive reforms and transparency. The lake was renamed Rachel's Lake in honor of my late wife, and ownership was transferred to the community trust with conditions to ensure perpetual access for all residents. 3 months into the recovery, Celine and I hosted a community fishing day at Rachel's Lake, which was attended by nearly every family in the neighborhood. Children laughed and learned to fish together while parents engaged in friendly interactions, bridging social circles. Who once kept things divided was no longer present as Sane and I spent the evening on the dock, watching the setting sun dance across the water. She smiled genuinely, the kind that truly shone through her eyes, and murmured, "Mum would be really proud of you, Dad." As she leaned against my shoulder, gazing over the tranquil lake where families had reunited in harmony after years, I reflected on how justice sometimes stems not from triumph, but from mending what was broken. "I think she'd be proud of us both, kiddo," I replied. A year later, our community had become a benchmark for HOA reform, inspiring neighboring developments to adopt our governance and ethical frameworks. Karen Wellington had relocated after forfeiting most of her assets in legal battles. Shortly after, I was approached to run for mayor when James Wilson opted not to stand for re-election due to revelations about his connection with Karen. I chose instead to establish a scholarship fund in Rachel's name, supporting children who had lost a parent to cancer. The most effective way to overcome a bully isn't to become one yourself. It's to rewrite the entire playbook. If you're watching this video while navigating your own HOA challenges, remember, never underestimate the power of someone who knows the rules, coupled with the patience to seize the perfect moment to act. Thank you for tuning in to Crux Time.